Okay, I think, Neha, now I'm going to hand over the stage to you. Why don't you just take us through the book a little bit more, and then we can officially launch This Is What Power Looks Like.
Yes, so first of all, I see some of our contributors have also joined, but for those who have not joined, we will be. Okay, can I have everyone on mute, please? Yes. We will be recording this. What can you expect to find inside this book? Like I said, we have tried to cover every type of life situation. This book comprises of 9 major chapters, 35 stories, a story about moms who are taking charge and building life for themselves, starting over, building life for their children. We have stories of women who are building businesses and at the same time managing their personal finances actively. We have stories of transition, what I like to call as some sort of a turning point. These could include stories of separation, divorces, loss, so on. We have stories of equal partners, couples who have come in where both spouses are taking a very strong role and building their financial life together. We have stories of mindset shifts, women who came in scared, unsure, driven from maybe scarcity mindset, and how they've built wealth and created that abundance in their life. We have women who have taken on money power in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s. We have daughters who have taken lead. We have what I like to call the wealth machines. So these are the women who've been building money, their wealth strategically. They have been extremely proactive. They are the women, when we have a call with them, they'll be the first ones to take charge. They'll be the first ones to execute the action. We have women who have faced loss, grief, inheritance, and then they're figuring it out how to build everything up from scratch. So inside this book, you will find 9 powerful chapters. A huge, huge thank you to each and every woman who has, when we reached out to the women that we know, who we worked with, and asked them if they were willing to share this. I was very, very unsure. I know many of them to be extremely strong, opinionated, but putting yourself out there, it takes a different kind of strength. And here are 35 women. Some have been chosen to be anonymous, and many others have chosen to, show up with pictures, with their story, owning it. And I am so overwhelmed. I'm so proud of the fact that each one of you here, I will not take the names because then you should read their story. You'll know each of these women personally. You'll understand how deeply personal the experience has been. But yes, every one of you, you have made this possible, and you have been the protagonists, the main leads of this book. But I also want to take this opportunity to thank each and every woman in my team, and it's a very small team. If you've ever worked with us, you'll know that, who has spent days, nights, late nights, and really fought it very hard with me, because I really resisted this. But Natasha, Ishika, Krutika, Rachna, you all have made this book happen. And this is also a big thank you to you all for doing this, making this happen in just a matter of 30 days. It's no mean feat. So yeah, thank you to everyone, every woman who's made this possible. I'm going to move the stage back to you, Natasha, so that you can officially launch the book.
Yes, absolutely. And to unveil the book, we have a short video, keeping things very virtual. So we've put something together that in sort of brings this whole thing together. And yeah,
Yeah, it's audible now.
story, I felt so empowered and I could see my whole growth so far, and it was amazing.
When I first read our story, like me and my sister, our story, so it felt very surreal for me because, I was able to reflect on how far we have come, like how much we have grown, and especially my own personal relationship with money. It has changed a lot.
It was a lot of excitement and goosebumps at the same time, but mostly immense pride. You suddenly realize that as an observer, that you've really, ended up coming fairly far in the journey that you decided to take.
When Neha told me that, my story is going to be part of her first book, I said, what's there in my story which can be published? But, when she sent me the story, I would say, honestly, I felt a wave of pride, not for the things that, I could do, but for the journey I've been on. Reading it made me realize that, how far I have come and how important it is to take a pause and celebrate even the quiet progress. It was emotional, empowering, and a reminder that, our stories, especially around money, deserves to be told.
Money to me used to mean a means of dependence, control, and shame. Now it means just another tool for me to feel independent, take care of my and my immediate family's needs, and feel more powerful.
I would say that, earlier money used to, it meant in more independence. I could earn, I invested it, but sort of kept it personal. Now, money is a conversation for me. It is a tool for growth, for confidence and connections. It is something that I could share, not just something, which I could manage.
Oh, that is a narrative that has completely changed, and I love it. Money was, I think, just a privilege in my pocket, and now I say very proudly that it is power in my hands.
Yes, that's it. And that's the book. And we're going to put up a QR code for you right now on the screen for you to actually start downloading the book. As well as we'll share a link with you on chat. We request you to please download the book, share this with every woman you know, because you don't know what that trigger is that will change everything. And on that note, I am going to now open this out to the panel discussion that we've all been kind of waiting for. Neha, do you want to take the floor and sort of walk us through who has joined us today, who has kind of put a bigger spotlight on this topic that we're all so passionate about by being a part of our event? And I just want to say that a lot of these most of these people just we just sent one message, and I think something resonated so deeply that they decided to join us today. And I think it really says something about the power of the topic that we're going to be discussing. So Neha, please go ahead. Please, everyone, I'm calling this out again. Please scan the QR code, go to the landing page, and please download the book. Share this link far and wide. Like I said, you don't know who needs to read this story when. Uh, and something could just like that small action could trigger a massive change in someone's life. Over to you, Neha.
All right, thank you so much. Ladies and gents in the room, we are going to have a very powerful power panel. I would request all those in the panel to please have their videos on, and I will be getting started with the introduction of the Power and the Purse panel that we have with us today. So first up, we have Shinjini. Shinjini is the co-founder of My Salt app. She has had decades of experience in the financial services space. Shinjini, can I see you? Can I have the spotlight up on you?
Hi, can't you see me? My camera is on.
Yes, now I can. I'm going to put the spotlight up. And it's totally a pleasure to have you here, Shinjini, because not just are you a stalwart in the industry, you worked with so many amazing MNCs, platforms, even the regulator. And I know that for the last few years, you've been working in the similar space of women and money. And for everyone to know, she's also having her book, which will get published in 2026. Really looking forward to that. Thank you, Shinjini, for coming in and being part of this conversation.
Thank you, Neha, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just pause my screen and have all the panelists. We have our second panelist coming in, who is, let's introduce Shreyasi. Shreyasi, let me quickly spotlight you as well. Now I have you here with me. Shreyasi is a serial entrepreneur and also someone who's been equally vocal and passionate about the gender equity cause. Thank you so much, Shreyasi. Right from the first time, I think 5 years ago, when we spoke about Womoneysta, I know you've been extremely supportive of building this. So it means a lot to have you here with us today and for sharing your opinion, your comments on the entire gender equity space. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me and congratulations to all of you. I'm never really sure about the serial entrepreneur tag. Sounds like a serial. Just somebody who's at it.
No, I think you're just being modest. I think you're just being modest. All right, next up we have Meghna Pant. Meghna is an award-winning author. And Meghna, you don't know this, but I was gifted your book sometime back by someone very, very special. And she told me that I must read this book. And that's how I know you. I don't think you know me, but I already know you. And Meghna really beautifully, through her stories, brings out the real life quiet situations that women face in the families. And I'm really looking forward to you sharing how the balance in families can change with the power of money today. So thank you so much, for showing up, for coming here and doing this for us.
Absolutely, my pleasure, and thanks for having me here.
And finally, we have Simran Jindal, who is an investor in women-led businesses. She herself is a first-generation wealth creator, and she's also a contributor to this book. She's been someone who's seen Womoneysta up front and close, and it is my honor, my privilege to have you here, Simran, in the panel today. So thank you all, ladies, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here, and congratulations to you and the team. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about Womanista's journey.
Yeah, but today I'm actually going to talk about your journey. So the first thing that I want to, ask all of you is to share, since it's the power in the purse, I want you to reflect on the first time or maybe a specific moment in your life when you realized that your purse was not just the coins and the cards, but it actually made you feel powerful. You can take a minute, and I'd love to have you share. Whoever would like to start, maybe we can have Shinjini going in first.
My story is a little different because I grew up in a set of circumstances where I actually believed that the best things in life are free. because I grew up with a lot of nature and affection and very little money. So I had very little regard for money. And I ended up as a bureaucrat when I was 22 in the Reserve Bank of India. And as it happened, my first posting was in the coin vault in RBI Delhi. And all of a sudden, I was sitting and accounting for money in 12 digits, and it was a little bit crazy. And so when you see money being treated like a commodity because it was packed and it was unpacked and it was burned and it was stored, I developed a very strange sort of disregard for money. And on the other hand, because I was a young bureaucrat, I did have a great sense of power because, in a city like Delhi, I would sometimes wake up at 4:30 a.m. and go to office in an office car to ship all this currency to different banks in Punjab. And those days, Delhi used to be the hub for many states. And so there would be in the office only men who would be doing all the work because it was a lot of physical work. And I would be the only young girl, but I was the senior most person there whose job it was to be responsible for all of this money. So I developed this tremendous sense of power, but very little understanding of or regard of money as it relates to me as a person. Because, as a bureaucrat, you don't get paid much. You see a lot of money, you see a lot of numbers, but what comes to you is very little. And you take your life for granted. You know that you will someday you'll be a deputy governor, you'll retire, and you'll get free facilities and perks. So you don't think about money. So for me, this idea of money only translated into a reality when I left RBI. And I'm so glad that I did it, because it's a very unreal thing when you don't understand money. And it's a very many women live that life, even though they may not have the same journey as me. But in terms of the mental space that money occupies for them, many women have the same space. So I can quite identify with a woman who gets married to a rich person, and therefore she has access to money and she can take it for granted and she's focused on other things, right? But for me, when I left RBI, that's the first time that I started realizing what personal finance is. And I sometimes really regret that I started investing very late. I mean, I did make money, so I shouldn't be complaining. But that was because of other reasons, because I managed to have opportunities in life that helped me. But really, that understanding of money as an instrument of freedom or of power is something that came to me quite late. And therefore, when I started to look at other women's journeys, in many ways, I could empathize with them or identify with them more than, one would think of by looking at me. You would think that I know everything, I have it figured out. But actually, it's been a interesting and strange journey. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I am surprised. Yes, I am. So thank you for sharing that. You're right. It would look very different, but yes, that was fair and candid. Let's hear it from Shreyasi. What about you? When did you realize the purse was actually powerful for you? Was there a moment? Was there a specific time or transition, something that you can share with us today?
I sort of so relate to what Shinjini said, because I come from this family in Bihar and my father was a banker, right? So I think when your father's a banker, you never go to the bank yourself because money just comes home. So, you actually have I think bankers' children have usually very little awareness of how to operate branches, checks, because it just happens so easily. And then, of course, I spent my first 10 years of my career as a journalist. And again, that was sort of not a great, highly monetizable career to go into. So really and got married to a rich man. So I think spent pretty much my teens and my 20s feeling like my money and what I lived off was some other man's problem, essentially, right? So I completely correlate with that. I got much more serious, bizarrely, which was never supposed to happen. I wrote a book called The Wealth Walas, which was really about the, creation of money, like first generation wealth creators, really at the end of my journalism career. And I think that, and the fact that I was, learning about and writing about the wealth management industry is like, it was when I felt like I had to get serious about money. And one of the first things I did was quit journalism, because as like Shinjini said, there was no way that I was going to make money in that career, and became an entrepreneur because realized that equity is the only way to create wealth in this scenario, to create generational wealth if you suddenly have those ambitions. But to answer your question, when I first felt super powerful, and that, whatever power purse question that you asked, is when I bought a house in Goa with my own money in January 2019. It's a nice villa with a pool. Of course, terrible decision. I'm like, I'm struggling to sell it now, and I should never have bought it. But at that moment when I went to that Mapusa, like dirty Mapusa court registrar's office, I felt very cool and super powerful that, this is the first big physical asset that I bought myself. But bad decision. But I'm sure we'll talk about allocation later.
Yeah, and I think we can also talk about a vacation in this beautiful villa sometime soon.
With the new owners, hopefully. I need to.
I hope so. Yes. How about you, Meghna? What is that moment, or what was that time when you realized the power of money?
I think so. I was raised in a middle class, with middle class parents who were bureaucrats, and they were moved from Delhi to Mumbai,
Sorry.
and we landed smack in the middle of. Sorry, I think there are a lot of people speaking.
No, we just muted. Yes.
So grew up a middle class girl with both parents in the income tax IRS. But my parents were posted in Mumbai, and we landed at Malabar Hill, which is the most posh part of possibly even India. And so I grew up a middle class girl surrounded by very wealthy people. And I remember, I would, my school friends would come with, their hot lunch would be served with chauffeurs who've come in, Mercedes, whereas my mom would pack a cold sandwich, before leaving for work for us, for my brother and me. I would pretend to hail a Kali Pili and then, stop it immediately. Jab 16 rupees aate the ya 11, whatever it was at that time, I would stop him immediately and then get off and wait for the bus to come. But I never envied them. This is a strange part, that I had compared to their net worth, I had nothing. But I never envied them. And this is something I find very interesting even today. Because for me, my happiness wasn't derived by wealth. I also saw that wealthy people are not necessarily the happiest people. In fact, I was happier than most of them, to be honest. And I've led a more powerful, more empowered life because I didn't grow up with a lot of privilege, and I've had to hustle a lot. So I think that was very empowering. But my happiest moment with money, I have to say, is I got a scholarship to study in Switzerland. My parents couldn't afford to send me to the US. And I got a scholarship to study in Switzerland and Singapore, finished my MBA, and then I got this fantastic, very well-paying job in euros in Switzerland. And I remember I quit that job after 6 months. I don't know why till today. And because I've constantly gone down the financial scale, from being up in corporate finance, I went to become a financial journalist and now an author. So I've literally scaled downwards, unlike other peers who've gone, upwards in the financial scale. But no regrets there either. But my most empowering moment was, my mother is one of the smartest, possibly the smartest human being I've ever met. Very financially savvy also. When I came back from Switzerland with my, little collection of euros, she made me invest in my first house. And I was 24, 25 at that time. And I bought a 1-bedroom house in Worli. And I remember walking in only with my mother, and the broker looked literally past our shoulders, and he was searching for, someone else, a presence. And he said, पर आपका भाई नहीं आया, आपके पिताजी किधर है, आप फ्लैट खरीद रहे हो. He couldn't believe that a 24-year-old girl can possibly buy a flat by herself with her own money. And he kept calling us Madam Sir, Madam Sir. He just couldn't wrap his head around the fact that there was no sir, there was an absence of a sir. And I think that was my most empowering moment, because I also realized that women, there's no money positivity when it comes to women. So nowadays, women are expected to earn and to save that money for the growth of the children, and maybe to buy gold and jewelry as investments. But beyond that, there's no sense that women can also create assets. There's no sense that women can also spend on themselves. So women's money now has to be earned by them, but it can't be spent by them the way in which they feel like. And I think that is a conversation we need to have more, that if you're earning, why are you not then fiscally responsible? Why are you not taught those lessons? Why is there no money confidence when it comes to our gender? And I think that's something that because I've grown up in a very matriarchal sort of setup and with very powerful women, I've had that mindset from the beginning, that be financially savvy. And being financially independent has got me out of very toxic jobs, very toxic relationships, and it's been the most empowering thing. And I have two daughters today, and the one thing I'll teach them is to be financially independent and very savvy with their money. And more than that, money positivity. Be confident with your money that you can manage the money. And once you earn it, you spend it how you want. You want to invest it. You want to go and buy, 500 Gucci bags, whatever you want to do. It's your money, and you have to be confident with it. So I think that's what the message I want girls today to receive.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Meghna. I think I love the intergenerational shift of confidence, that's so critical and that's so important. And I totally resonate with that. Yes, Simran, I would love to know, what is that moment of reckoning when you thought that this verse is super powerful?
I think, like all of the stories heard, right, the moment of reckoning comes much later in life, but there are a lot of these incidents that build up to that reckoning. So my story is slightly different. Yes, raised in a middle class family, was well provided for. My parents separated when I was super young, 6 months old. So my mother, of course, didn't have a very positive relationship with money, and unfortunately, she never worked either. I can relate to Meghna that we were also surrounded. I grew up in North Delhi, surrounded by a lot of wealthy people around, always lived in a house. So you're always well provided for by my maternal side of the family. So I was, I grew up happy with a lot of people around and all the wealthy people and the kids around. I was never jealous, but I always knew there's something with money. There's something, there's powerful. And I also come from a family, I think I'm the first generation, first person on my maternal side of the family who ever chose to have a career and work and go out of the house. So 25 years ago, I was the rebel, whereas now the next generation, it's become a norm. My uncles have also, really sort of opened up. And I've been making money, I think, in small numbers, large numbers, since the age of 15. And Meghna, I live in Europe now, so I can totally understand when you talk about the currency deflation and scaling down and scaling up. But I think what I've done is I've kept working and I've kept building up making more and more money. So you can start getting to a point in life that you have buffer. Because when you're in your early career and first generation immigrants, we live in Sweden and your children are born, there are expenses. Like, even if you're doing well with two of us making money, it just got spent. And so I think about a decade ago, I was relentlessly focused on increasing that capacity and having more and more money, and then got into investing. And the power came for me. I think a lot of things have changed. Like 10 years ago, if I had have felt that, oh, I would have wanted to have this bag and that bag, today I feel like, oh, I could buy like 100, but I chose to invest in a certain company. And all the, my cousins who didn't want to talk about money with me, now they ask advice from me. So how would you get return from this investment? How do you exit? So power for me has been purely, cerebral, emotional, and financial independence combined together, not just money to be able to just buy things. I think that I could still do. And I think the other thing is not just assuming that the man or the men in your life are financially savvy. They might have failed math in school, right? But we just assume that they are better at math or money for that matter. Even bankers, many bankers, even in Sweden, I would say I have personal experience. I have a personal banker. He's a lovely person, but there's just so many things he didn't know. I was researching and I was educating him, and I said, now you go do this and I want you to do this. And he's like, yeah, great. Even we can make money. And I said, yeah, and now I can get a credit line. So I think it's all about education. And of course, I met you and I learned a lot, along over the years. So that's that. I think my definition of power has changed as well over time compared to when I was a child. But I never was jealous of others until today. If somebody's doing that I really appreciate, I like, I will be the first one knocking on their doors to learn, how are you doing this, regardless of age. It could be a 5-year-old child or a 55-year-old person. Doesn't bother me. I just want to learn. That's all.
Wow, there's power in learning. There's power in having that confidence to spend on yourself. And there's power in buying a villa. All of that and closely related to money. I also want to, ask each one of you a single question because I know your specific background. So, Shesi, I was very, very keen to know that, see, you've been working in the professional space. You've also been, built businesses. You must be coming across so many younger, older women on a day-to-day basis. What is that one thing when you're having this conversation with them around their finances? And I know that, you are fairly cognizant about the financial independence piece. What is that one thing that you hear many times young women say, and you're like in your head, you're like, no, no, don't say that. Don't think like that.
I don't care about money. And I think we've all said it. We were, I wish I hadn't, and I wish I was sort of, worked on informing myself as much as I do. Like sometimes now, every couple of months, there's a Sunday when you're just spending at home. I'll watch like 4 hours of, fire videos or, some financial, just to learn tips from how other people are doing it. So I don't care about money. And it, doesn't lead to happiness. True, but I wish people don't say it when you're in 20s because, you need to get started. So that's the one thing. And second is, you can educate yourself. It's truly not rocket science. I think a little bit of sort of easier than many other things in some ways. So I think these two things I don't know anything about it and I don't care about
I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that hurts more than anything. Like you're like, but you will care. Dekhna. वो दिन आएगा when you will care because it does happen to all of us. Meghna, I loved your book, by the way. I read it in one shot on a flight. Boys
Which book
Don't
was
Cry,
it?
and literally made me cry. I took snapshots of it. But yeah, I want you to share a little bit about, since you speak about families and the emotional side of, how women hold back their
Hmm.
agency in,
Yes.
and let's put that in the financial terms. What do
Hmm.
you really think happens? What do you think is the mindset that ends up, in your opinion, holding women back in the family ecosystem when it comes to financial conversations or financial decisions?
I think women are very intimidated by money in general. They have a very negative outlook when it comes to money because they believe that to follow good money habits, you have to be a finance guru. And I think that's one fallibility we have to do away with. Uh, my journey with money as a woman, as an Indian woman, was very different because I had a very empowered mother who also in turn wanted to empower her daughter. But that's not what we're seeing, right? In women today. I mean, there are 13 million, 15 million single moms in India today, and they're navigating motherhood and navigating finances, which is even harder, and we don't even notice them. So I think one thing I always say, keep it simple. Like investing is not that complicated. Hire a money coach. There's so many of them around. You have to understand something. Money is a priority because life is stressful, life is unpredictable. You don't know what kind of situation you're going to end up in if tomorrow your husband hits you or cheats on you, and you're financially dependent on him. What are you going to do? You can't leave him because you don't have the financial wherewithal. And you see millions of women, not just in India but around the world, stuck in these toxic marriages, putting up with all kinds of abuse because they're not independent, because they don't have their own money. So I always tell women that you have to have, मेरी जो नानी जी थी, she used to have this very interesting thing. She never worked, but उस जमाने में they used to have these gold bars, I think, and she used to hide it in the staircase किसी घर में. So when her husband passed away at the age of 35 and she had to raise four daughters and one son, she didn't work. She was never sent to school because of patriarchy. She still managed because she had that hidden fund. So I tell every woman that somehow or the other, अगर आप काम नहीं कर रहे हो, then whatever you're getting from your husband or your whatever father, brother, whichever figure in your life, do a little something, pardon my French, but a fuck off fund. So, or get lost fund. So let's be politically correct and keep money aside for yourself and keep it secret. Don't tell anybody about it. Go to a bank, set up your own account. Do not discuss it with anybody. Keep your money private. Enough funds that tomorrow, if you're in a bad situation, you can walk out of it. Now, Boys Don't Cry, my book novel that you referred to, I was in an abusive marriage and I was financially independent. I was working in New York and then Dubai at that point. And because I had money saved up, because I was earning, I had the confidence to walk out. Otherwise, I would have been still stuck with the person who left me, who, by the way, emptied out my bank account in Dubai and in the US also prior to that. That should have been my red flag, but clearly we are hopeless when it comes to matters of the heart. And left me penniless in 2 foreign countries twice over. And I had to come back to Bombay and rebuild myself from scratch. And I did it because I had the courage and the confidence in my own ability to earn and make money. And I have hustled and I have done whatever it takes, not taken money from my parents and build my own life. So I think that courage you will get only if you have your own money and this fund. So write down your financial goals, start when you're young, so that compounding is to your advantage. Like I mentioned, the house I bought at 24, because of that house, I was able to become a novelist. Novels don't have enough money, but because of the rental I get from that, I'm able to sustain my lifestyle or sustain a certain whatever lifestyle I can afford. So you have to think of medium to long term investments. You have to diversify. Whether you're a homemaker or a working woman, you have to set aside something for yourself from the household budget or from your paycheck without telling anyone. And one thing we need to understand is saving does not mean sacrifice. It means emancipation. So even our relationship with money, that money positivity I was speaking of earlier, it has to change. Start thinking of money as empowering. It will lead not as something sacrificial and something to be looked down upon. Own it and enjoy it and live your life within your means. I think don't spend on things that don't matter to you, but splurge on things that do matter to you. You deserve it. So I think make financial independence not the end goal, but actually the starting point of your life. And I think everything will change for you from that point on.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because it's so true. Many women, I think, are unable to connect the dots when it comes to that, love, looking after everyone else, and then putting myself last. And then how do I deal with that conflict? So you just put it front and center and say, boss, chahe wo chupa ke karna hai, jaise karna hai, you need to have something of your own. I mean, if that is there, I think a lot of things will start changing.
Yeah.
One for you, Simran. You're an angel investor as well. I know you work very closely with women businesses. You meet so many women day in, day out. What is that one quality which you think stands out when you come across a woman and you can figure out that this woman has been building her wealth or has wealth by her side, something which she has done herself? Is there any quality or few qualities that you notice and you've been picking on or you've noticed when you're interacting with such women?
Yeah, I mean, recently, although I would say that the current generation is very different than, 20 years ago and 30 and 40 years ago. But what I've seen is a lot of clarity of thought. And they're and the ones that are comfortable being vulnerable. Stuff happens, you just brush it off and move forward rather than holding yourself. And thirdly, that I personally really want to see, and I really like it when I see is they are not diminishing themselves by saying, oh, I don't know this, I have to figure this out, I need a man, I need to talk to this. They're very clear in what they are doing. So I mean, because in investing, you're also betting on the person, not necessarily always on the business, right? Because businesses can come and go, but it's the person and that person's resilience and their life. So for me, that's been very, very important. I think Meghna made an interesting point about how women should obviously think about money. While there's one side of like group of women who, have it, but probably they're not saving enough, whether they're working or not working, whatever little, money for themselves. But then I've also seen equally other group of women who are married into wealthy families, including within my own family, I personally see where they choose not to do anything about it. And then some days they're very okay with it when everything is going good, and if they're having a bad day, then they're going to start complaining because the money control is in my husband's hand. I think the responsibility is not taken by them. So if I combine the founders and other women who have all means and access, the key is not letting anybody else having the responsibility to take care of you. I think for me it's very human that it's my job to take care of myself. Why should somebody else have that responsibility? And why should I even look up to somebody else?
So
In time,
taking that ownership.
because in times of need, yes, you can lean on your friends, you can lean on your family, you can lean on your partner, and many others in life. But fundamentally, as that premise, that thought process that women have is, it's somebody else, it's somebody else's job to take care of me. So I have to go and ask for money. Now I have to go and do this. So that's something I'm seeing a very big change in this current generation of the 20s and the 30 somethings of women, founders. They have a lot of ownership and clarity of thought around it, and they're unapologetic about money, which is so refreshing to see.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. I think there is a lot of young people, young women who come into our sessions as well, and they're like, even before I earn my first salary, मुझे ये बताओ tax कैसे बचाना है? And I am like, you go, girl. A lot of women are still figuring it out in their 40s and 50s, and there is this young one who will say this and just takes my heart. Finally, the closing one. I know we're running a little over time. Ladies, everybody, thank you for your patience. Shinjini, this one is, something I've been wanting to ask you actually. Since you started My Salt and you've also worked in the space of women and money, what has been, give me one, just maybe one surprising thing that you came across when you were doing your research or, and you were building the app where you said, Arey, is this also how it happens with women and money? Was there any one moment or any such revelation? I think, Chinri, you're on mute one second.
Oh, sorry. So
No problem.
if I were to summarize it, it's been a very humbling experience because, as you know, we are three co-founders, right? And between the three of us, we have more experience and qualifications than any set of founders in this country. So I think we started out with this confidence of saying, we have a great client segment. We have the ability to build the tech because one of our founders is tech, one of our founders is finance, and I kind of have done many things. But what surprised me was actually how hard it really was to convince investors that women were a target segment that required a massive product. Everybody is very willing to indulge you when you talk about education, literacy, poor women, microfinance, let women have empowerment, give them an award, and that sort of is the comfort zone for men largely. And there are very few women in investing with the type of size of the organization that we are trying to build. And so that sort of surprised me because many of these men were my friends, okay? Almost all my friends are 50-year-old men because that's who I worked with, that's who I've always lived with. And every single time I would tell them, or they would come to know that I'm doing this, they would say, you're doing such a nice thing. My maid, she really has such a big problem. Her husband beats her. She doesn't know where to keep her money. And I said, and I became very brazen after some time. And I would say, how about your wife? Or how about your daughter? Or I'm not building for your maid, I'm building for your wife. And that instantly sort of changed the tone. So much so that I've just written a book and it's gone to press. And some guy, I made some mention of it on LinkedIn, and one of these same friend, wealthy, successful, sent me a message saying, oh, congratulations, what's the title of the book? And I said, I'm meeting Penguin next week to kind of brainstorm it. I'm not happy with what we are currently going with, but it's kind of this. And he promptly suggested a title which had one of these cringe empowerment type words in it. And I actually wrote back to him saying, you don't know anything what the book is about. You don't want to know what the book is about. You already have a view. And I put a question mark and I sent it back to him. He never replied. I'm sure he never will. It's unbelievable. It is just unbelievable how much confidence men have to believe that everything around them is perfect And I have gone into these very weird conversations where I've actually asked people when they have told me, yeah, but women really don't take interest in investing. And I said, how about you? Tell me your portfolio. How much return have you made over the last 5 years? And the guy is like, I am into, I do use this, I use that. I said, just tell me. I'm not asking you how much money you have. Just tell me what's your return and what are the type of things that you have invested in. What's your debt? What's your equity? And frankly, they have no idea. Many men just have no idea. Something that Simran said. In fact, and some of them are honest enough to acknowledge it. Yesterday, I was having dinner with a friend, and a very wealthy person, one of the most well-known people in this country, and he said, "Don't even tell me." And I was telling him about how I invested in a product on which I made no money, but I was very happy it was principal protected, so at least my principal came back. And he said, "Oh, you made only one mistake. Sometime we will talk about mine." So some are honest about it, but even then, it's a matter of pride. When men make mistake about money, it is a badge of honor. I've literally heard conversations once in an Indigo bus, one guy showing his Zerodha account to another guy, like regular small investment, saying, मेरा तो 10,000 का नुकसान हो गया, and the other guy saying, तुम्हारा 10,000 का नुकसान हुआ, मेरा तो लाख रुपए का नुकसान हो गया. That's also a badge of honor. Well, so that kind of shook me, because I was brought up to kind of believe that maybe because it was my personal life, that you were always equal and you always fought for that thing, and you became a little bit loud and aggressive, because if somebody didn't listen to you, they jolly well learned to listen to you. And then all of a sudden I found myself in a place where it just doesn't work that way. It just does not. And I'm still flummoxed about it, but yeah, that was my surprise. Also, the other surprise was that to some extent, I also had to be humble and recognize that what the men were saying was not so wrong, because women, like something I think that Shreyasi said or Meghna said, that women do take a very long time to get to a point of actually doing something. So between realizing that I need to do it and actually doing it, there is a lag, and that lag, I'm sure,
An eternity sometimes.
basis. And therefore, in the journey of salt, our problem fundamentally is that because we did not recognize that lag, we did not raise enough money to last for that lag. And the money that we raised, we put it all into tech and beautiful user experience, and the customer was still making up their mind. So there is, so to some extent, the men were not wrong. There could be various sociological, psychological, economic factors for it, but and it will change, like all of us have been saying, with younger women, with women who are inheriting. In my book, I one of the things I recognize is that the number of successful women that I met, who acknowledged that they were so successful because they were one of two sisters. And one woman just said it very bluntly. She said, in my house, because we didn't have a brother, there was no way that anybody was putting any shade on us for anything. So we learned to just be bold. So it's a very sad thing. My husband died is a freedom statement. I'm sorry to say this. I did not have a brother is a freedom statement. Very sorry to say this. I walked out of my marriage is a freedom statement. Very sorry to say this. Like, why can't you have love and affection and family and money? But it just, we are still muddling through that. So to me,
It's a hard narrative, but it will take its own time, because there's generations, hundreds of years of narrative change, right? So
it's happening very fast. Huh? That's the thing
hard.
about change. Change is slow until it actually happens. No, Neha. So what I
Yeah.
realize is that this 2-child policy or 3-child policy that India has followed, there are many families now that have 2 daughters. So actually there is a lot of girls who are inherited, and our generation made money. So this generation of women are actually inheriting money and that attitude which Meghna talks about, like how she talks about her mother and that age. I'm seeing that happening a lot more, and I do think that will change. Sorry, I cut you in.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. I think that's one of the reasons that we exist. We are very sure, and not just that. I think, like, I do believe in a very simple line, which is also testament to the book, that when one woman changes, she holds the hand of another one, and that's all it really starts taking a chain, and that's why we all are here. Thank you all so much for taking out the time to be here and sharing your stories, Before we end, I have two beautiful contributors. I know there are 35, but we have two ladies who would be joining in to share a little bit about their story. Thank you so much, ladies, all of you, for not just being here, but also being an active part of these conversations. Your words on every platform matter, count, and the more we all say this, do this together, I think that's when the change starts happening. That's where the chain begins. That's where the change starts happening. Thank you for your time. I am going to jump to the last section. All right. So for everyone, we have 35 wonderful contributors, but today we have the time, limited time that we have. We'd like to share stories of Gauri and Neha. Thank you, Gauri, for being here. And Gauri's story I have witnessed, of course, firsthand. Her story is a lot about, being someone who's transitioned from being passive to being extremely active. And today, in fact, she walks into our conversation with so much clarity with what she wants from someone who's been carrying, um, a way of thinking, who kind of got that way of thinking. But yeah, she's made that difference. But over to you, Gauri, for sharing your own story.
Thank you so much, Neha. This is truly a privilege to be a part of this very empowering session. And congratulations to all of you. And I'm very delighted to share my story and so honored to be included among some very inspiring voices. So thanks for that. I never thought that I'd be this one person handling the family's money at all. That was always Papa's job. And I would sit beside him. Mama was his second in command. And we'd sit together. I would observe, I'd be aware, but I was never taking any financial calls in the household. And that changed. And so COVID, we lost Papa, and Mama's health started declining very rapidly. So suddenly overnight, I had to step up. So I was this operational head of the household. I was now the primary caregiver for Mama, and I now had to be the one taking the financial decisions. And it was, I think, quite scary. I think money was not new to me, but I was used to taking care of my limited income and the expenses, and that's about it. And suddenly the responsibility was very huge, and I realized that this is family wealth, and I needed to honor that and also make sure that I can sustain it and grow it at the same time. And I was clueless how to do that. And then steps in actually Womoneysta as a very important guiding force in my life. And I think you guys really helped me roll up my sleeves. And we've had many conversations where I went through every asset and all FDs, managing and trying to figure out all cash flows. I think one biggest change for me especially was that shift from that very conventional form of interest income from FDs to understanding and now trying to generate income from in smarter ways through SWPs. And I was dipping my toes in bonds. I started using credit cards more wisely. Such a basic thing. You're in any case making all the expenditure, na? Might as well earn some miles out of it. So I think huge change for me there. And now 3 years down the line, I very confidently manage my family's portfolio. And while I'm very proud of all of that, actually my proudest moment has been when I could use my knowledge to actually help another lady in a similar situation to build her retirement income and her plan. So why I share this story actually is because I realize that all transitions are not planned. So a lot of times life is going to throw things at you. You're going to be finding yourself in very unfamiliar places, and it's okay to be scared. Once you have the right guidance, you're going to power through that, and you're going to actually figure out what power really looks like.
That was a good plug. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Gauri. Everyone, you have her story as part of the Wealth Creator chapter. Just two questions from my side, Gauri. I know your story, but it'll be nice for everyone to know, because I know a lot of women do stick to traditional instruments like FDs, etc. And you said that you made that transition. What do you think helped you in building the confidence, in building your own strategy and moving out of that comfort territory?
I think that realization hit me the first time when I was filing taxes for the family. So I was now the representative of my deceased father. I was the representative filing taxes for now mama also. So when I realized how much tax is going into it, there was a lot of income coming in from the interest of the SDs. That's when I realized that income is an illusion, that it all really goes away in the taxes, and it's not sustainable. And I think I was lucky enough to get the right guidance, and it was it was a chart. It was a simple chart of FDs on one side and SWPs on the other side. It's the same amount of principal, it's the same amount of income coming into you as interest from FDs and as withdrawals from SWPs, but just that amount in the second column was lasting me so much more, so many more years, right? So it was just that little epiphany moment. Ki, this is just common sense. How has this not been done earlier? So once I knew, it was so clear. It was just action that needed to be taken.
Yeah, I know. I think you make it sound easier than it is for many. But yeah, I think seeing those numbers sometimes creates that shift.
It
Like,
does. It really did for me.
just do that.
Yeah.
You also said that, your proudest moment was to help another woman. What would you like to share with any of the ladies here, or maybe the ones who will be watching this recording later?
Hmm.
Women who feel unsure,
Yeah.
what do you think could be a good starting point for them?
I think I feel, because I've been there myself too, I think it is absolutely normal to feel scared. It is absolutely okay to be overwhelmed, and there is really no shame in it. Just one thing that I did was I never stopped asking questions. So, as silly, as basic as that question sounds, ask it. And once you find that person who you're comfortable with, who is giving you the right guidance, for me, it was you guys. You'll find your way. It's difficult, but you can totally do it. Never be unsure of your own self.
Asking questions. I
Yeah.
agree. And I think that is really the crux of it. Not feeling scared, shy, uncomfortable. And I would just like to add to this, Gauri, and thank you for bringing this point up to everyone in this room. You know, One of our favorite type of investors are the ones who ask us uncomfortable questions. And that is because it makes me think that, hey, I'm not the only one who's thinking about her money. She's also thinking about her money. And that's what really matters. That really starts moving the needle for a lot of women. Thank you so much, Gauri, for sharing your story so openly and so candidly. Means the world to me.
Thank you so much.
Our second reader today is Meha. Meha, are you here?
Hi, Neha.
Not
Yes,
over
I am
time,
here.
but Neha's been kind enough to stay, huh?
I am here. Yes. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. I hope everyone can, right? Yeah, you're audible. All right, we have Meha here. I want to share something with everyone. Meha has been one of the many. So, like I said, Womoneysta started with the intention of building something beautiful, impactful for women. And I have to say it out loud in this forum that Mia has been a very, very important part of what Womoneysta looks like today. And that's because she has been with us right from the early years. She has been that woman who's come back and said, hey, why don't you guys do this? Because I think I need this from you. And it's really taken us some time to go back and then say, if we have even one Meha by our side, I think we should do it. And thank you, Meha, for doing that. I've seen your journey for someone who's been earning her money. Again, the transition, the shift of becoming the head of your finances in the family, I think has been incredible. Your story is totally yours to share with everyone. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Neha. And I think congratulations. And it is quite, so when you reached out to, you wanted to share my story, it was quite surprising. And I was never comfortable sharing it. I think this is the first time I'm actually talking about it. Um, uh, so I'm an IT professional, and I always earned my money, right? And I managed my own money, or I thought I managed my own money till then. But I think life has surprises for you, and it kind of hits you. So with my husband passing away, my gyro kind of toppled. And so then everything shifted, right? I became the only parent, the only provider, and never thought that I needed to have any kind of financial structure. FDs were something which I only had, and there was nothing else. And I think till the time actually life hits you, you think this can't happen to me, right? And when it does happen, then grief aside, you have this lot of confusion. You have a 5-year-old to take care of, you have one single income, you you kind of don't know where to start. And I think for me, that is where Womoneysta was a blessing. um, uh, I think the moment I reached out to Neha and Rachna, my confidence started building up. This I don't want to I'm not marketing Womoneysta or anything, but quite honestly, you also know, I think it's more like a family for me. You kind of started with understanding what I required. You discussed what my goals in life were, how I should actually go ahead with each of my milestones, and my daughter's education, my emergency fund, retirement fund. I had nothing of that sort, even though I was working and I had money in hand. But I never thought of it. We worked on our complete financial plan. You set up my SIPs. I think that you made me realize that I needed to build up a financial habit, right? And I was confident about it. I didn't shy away from doing it. um, and that made me actually start building intentionally. And I think why I'm choosing to share the story right now, I think uh, no one expects a crisis, right? Life hits you at times when you don't even know. And having that financial security, especially with a kid by your side, right, who you're responsible for, I think definitely having a financial security gives you that peace of mind. And Womoneysta did that for me. I think some very weird queries and everything when I reached out to Neha and Rachna. I think they were whenever I spoke to them, they put me at ease. And that's how I started feeling more confident about talking about money and building up my wealth. Wealth, I'm using wealth. I've never used wealth as so that's a big change. Yes.
The change is right there.
Yes.
The wealth, the word
The
with the
word.
comfort
Yeah.
is right there.
Absolutely.
Thank you for doing this. I know this is not easy for you, but thank you so much for doing this. And your story is a story of true power, quiet power. And I'm sure many, many, many women who read the story will have, it'll stay with them. But I do have to
Thank you.
ask you, how did you manage to continue taking small steps when you were going through all that emotional turbulence, right? All that grief, everything, but
Yeah.
you had to keep moving forward. How did you do it? How did you manage to do those things?
Quite honestly, I think realizing that you don't have to be a superwoman and do everything yourself. It is all right to reach out for help, right? And taking financial help was one of the things that I did. Like apart from all the other steps that I took, I think taking financial help was one thing which helped me. And uh, I think the other thing, once we had our plan and everything, I think one thing was not getting worried about when the dips are going or when they're coming, right? Trying to stay consistent with every time, any kind of situation that happened.
Awesome. Reaching out for help and trying to stay consistent. Very, very sounds simple, but actually
But
very
it
hard to
is,
do.
yes, yes,
It's not that simple.
it is.
And finally, as we close the session, the launch today, last question for you, Megha. If your younger self was to hear your story today, what is it do you think she would be most proud of?
I think not giving up and uh, just just uh, just thinking that there's always more to life. There's always more to life, and you don't have to give up with any kind of changes. And money does buy you happiness. I think that is, I can very proudly say it does.
Thank you so much, Meha, for sharing that, for sharing your story. Thank you, everybody. We have beautifully in classic Womoneysta style overshot on time. But we would like to thank everybody who's been sitting through the powerful panel, the contributors, everybody who made this book happen. In spite of all the technical glitches, the links working, not working, I'm hoping that my team has made sure that they're working now. Please do scan, download. We will be sharing the link with all of you and spread the word, spread the story out to as many women. If there's a woman in your circle who needs to hear this, she's not listening to you, send her this book, tag the story, make her read that story. I'm telling you, she will be thankful to you for life. Let's create this chain because it's not easy. Like Shinjini said, it's a huge change which needs to be made. And I hope these 35 women, their stories inspire 35,000, 3.5 lakhs, maybe 100 crore women across the world some point who will start owning wealth and not feeling apologetic about it. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time today.